See, she's such a queen. She had 2 men helping her. And they are in order of their chairwoman or chairmanship: Miss Phyllis Parks Robinson, Mrs. Linda Pondexter-Chesterfield, and Mr. Charles Smith. Please give them a hand. Uh-oh. I think it'll reach. I think it's wrapped around something. Oh, I know we're going to do this. Give me back the mic. I'm a music teacher. All right, now you reach it. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. As Jackie has said, I'm Phyllis Parks Robinson. My professional life has been in the state of Maryland. I live in the nation's capital, though. So I bring you greetings from Barack, and the nation's capital, and from all of my colleagues in Maryland. A few of them are way back there. When Jackie asked me to participate in this adventure, I wasn't really sure what it was that she wanted me to do, but she explained that part of what she wanted me to do was to share some of the history of the Black Caucus, the issues and the kinds of challenges that we faced, and during each of our tenure, we're going to talk a little bit about the challenges that we had and maybe some of the successes. I was so happy to see that Al Tony did my homework for me. He brought you guys a copy of the history of the NEA Black Caucus, and it brought to mind, because I hadn't looked at that particular piece for a long while, so many names. When he was giving those names this morning, I'm like, oh yeah, I know that person, I know that person. So it kind of puts an age on you, but there was so much experience within the Black Caucus when I got involved. And the time that I got involved, it was exciting. It was some of the most challenging adventures within the NEA Black Caucus and within NEA. I remember Lori Wynn at the first Black Caucus meeting that I ever attended. I wasn't even that much involved with NEA, but wow, that meeting set it up so that I was like sucked in. You know how when you got involved with the association, somebody said, oh, you know, come to this meeting, it'll be okay, you can just come here and you can just observe or whatever, and the next thing you knew, you were the chairperson of a committee, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that was what happened with the NEA Black Caucus. The NEA members were having quite a discussion about representation, minority guarantees, all of those types of things. The CONCON, that's the Constitutional Convention, for those people who may not know what CONCON means, was to take place so that we had some guarantees in terms of minority participation, and in this particular case it was black participation, not minority. It was just simply the black members wanting participation. I got involved with the Black Caucus by joining first, of course, like most members, and trying to figure out what it is the Black Caucus is supposed to be doing. Because it seemed like every meeting we had, something came up. There was some kind of crisis going on within the NEA that we had to try to attend to or adjust to. Jackie Gilmore was the first chairperson under which I served as vice chairperson. You heard Al Tony this morning talking about her, that's his sister-in-law. And she is the reason why we have this Black Issues Conference that we have today. And as I was reading through her comments, which was the first report about the NEA Black Caucus, and she was so excited that 150 members, look around this room, do you see 150 people in here? No. 150 members came to the NEA Black Caucus in South Carolina. People were so excited to be able to have a conference that would address the issues. And as El Tony said this morning, one of the things that we need to do is to make sure that we increase our membership, but also increase our activism. And I know that my fellow co-chairs will talk to you a little bit about those challenges that are facing us now and how we can utilize our power and our membership to address those issues and to make sure that our voices are heard, and not only just heard, but address the issues that are important to us. One of the issues that came up while I served as chairperson of the caucus was a particular resolution, and some people may remember B9 here. And the rest, so if you remember B9, you've been here a long time. Quite an issue of concern for us in trying to equate what we felt were our historical rights with the rights of others to participate at a level that we felt we needed to have exclusive rights to. As El Tony said this morning, when you become a leader, you often have divergent interests or agendas. You're trying to lead your group to address their issues, and at the same time try to figure out how does that fit into the larger picture. And because you have to make some accommodations, you also have to hold the line. And so we had a great fight over the issue. We worked out a way to resolve what we thought was the best way to resolve the issue, and we came out with our heads held high. We did not cave in to what people wanted us to cave into. We can't do that now. In this budget fight that we're going to be fighting, we cannot give in. We have to stand up for what is important to us. I'm not going to take a whole lot more time in telling you about my tenure or anything like that, but I do want to say to you, when we started getting involved, one of the things that we heard from the Black Caucus members was, I don't hear anything from the Black Caucus. I don't know what's going on. Nobody's telling me anything. Through Jackie and through Ruth Cage and myself, we started the NEA Black Caucus newsletter. I happen to have been president of one of the largest locals in NEA at the time. We served some 9,000 members in my local. And we had the capacity to assist the NEA Black Caucus in putting together a newsletter. And you'll see in the back pages, I don't remember which page it is, but the listing of all the officers, their telephone numbers, their addresses, ways that you could get in touch with them. And this newsletter went out on a regular basis, and it was the first time that the NEA Black Caucus had served its members in terms of constant communication and updates. We had fundraisers to fund ourselves because the caucus is independent, and we did not depend and could not depend on the NEA to fund us. So Ruth Cage, who is a financial wizard, created every kind of fundraiser that you can think of And we were able to fund ourselves, and we were also able to get together during the year and plan. So there was some structure to what it was we were doing. We need to get back to that. We need to make sure that our officers, all of our NEA Black Caucus officers, are meeting on a regular basis or communicating on a regular basis. It's so much easier now because you got computers and virtual meetings and all that kind of thing. But you must do that job so that you can bring the type of leadership, the A game, to this caucus. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to just leave it there, and if you have questions for me later, I'll be happy to take them.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Linda Pondexter-Chesterfield, and I'm a little country girl from Hope, Arkansas.
Yeah, right. It's true. I know she's country.
I have had great opportunities in this association, not because they were given, but because we fought for them. And I want us to be sure that we are not sleeping through a revolution. I want us to be sure that we are not sleeping through a revolution. Dr. King said, cowardice asks the question, is it safe? Expediency asks the question, is it politic? Vanity asks the question, is it popular? But conscience asks the question, is it right?
Well, all right.
And I say to you today that the battles that we fought, we have had to overcome that which was safe, that which was politic, that which was vain, and we have had to deal with our conscience and ask the question, is it right? It was not right that the minority leadership training program that is in each and every region was not fully funded. It wasn't right. You see, we had to sleep two to a room with people we didn't even know at a regional meeting of the National Education Association. Those who came to the regional in January and February had single occupancy, fully funded. I had to fight on that budget committee and threaten to go to the floor of the RA and say you want to treat everybody more fairly than you do your ethnic minorities. And at that time we had 11 black presidents. And being the organizer that I am, I called them all together and we went with a united front to Bob Chase and said, you're funding everybody else fully, we want to be funded fully too. Well, I'm not sure, well then we'll take it to the floor. We'll take it to the floor. Let the people decide. Because ultimately the people of the representative assembly like fairness. Ultimately they like fairness. It was not right. It was not right that as we went about the business of deciding how the monies of this association was spent, that we didn't know the budget. You still don't know the budget. You saw a presentation that told you exactly what they wanted you to know.
Well, all right. Or what they didn't.
And what they didn't want you to know, it wasn't up there.
All right, all right.
Let me be clear. When I was chair of this caucus, everybody here had a copy of the budget.
Well, I was chair too.
And everybody here, we didn't get a chance to visit with Jackie. You can only pass on so much. I stepped aside and started running for political office when our chair came in. But I guarantee you next year you'll have a copy of the budget because I know Jackie great.
Right. All right.
She has never, ever called on me and asked for anything that I did not tell her about. Because that legacy has got to be passed on from one chair to the other. Why is the budget so important? You got two budgets in one. You have got a strategic budget, which doesn't tell you much anything.
No.
Let's be serious. It doesn't tell you much anything. It sounds really pretty. We want to have this kind of thing and we want this outcome. I am so sick of that crap, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to tell you. But at the back of the book, There is a line item budget.
That's the one.
That's the one.
And that's the one you need to look at. Especially as we look at budget cuts. It is time for us to say, I don't care what else you do. You will not cut minority leadership training. It doesn't matter if you don't have hundreds of thousands of people attending those trainings. Training is like a classroom. The smaller the class size, the greater the knowledge you have imparted. I want you to look at how well we treat our officers. And we treat them well. They're pulling down over $200,000 a year. We are paying for their automobiles. We are paying for their housing. All right? They got a credit card. They can use it anywhere they want to. I ain't hating. But I'm saying this. Don't balance your budget on top of our backs. You see, people have forgotten how we got here. There was an American Teachers Association. And in every state that had one, which was basically the Mid-Atlantic and the South, and there were African Americans in Ohio and Pennsylvania who were not allowed to join their organizations either, who were members of the American Teachers Organization. You know, we like to pretend all that stuff's so Southern. All wasn't peaches and honey up north either. Okay?
All right.
I want you to read the history. For a while, they had the audacity to leave the history out of the book, out of the handbook. We had to raise a little sand, put it back. Because people, I know y'all did out there, but I'm just tired of hearing about it. I don't care. There is a commitment from certain religious groups that their children will never forget from whence they came. Because once you forget, you never get back what you lost, people. It was imperative that we understand. When we came into NEA, we did not come in here with our hats in our hands. In every state where there was an African-American facility, an African-American organization, we were financially solvent. We owned our own buildings and we had our own assets. So we didn't come in hat in hand. And they made promises to us. They made promises to us. In many states, the promise was that every other president would be a minority. Black. He didn't say minority. Let me get off that. Every other president would be black. You still got it in Mississippi. You still got it in Louisiana. And you still have it in South Carolina. You still got it in Alabama. And Georgia. But you don't have it anywhere else. When we merged with the AFT in Florida, all of those minority guarantees went by the wayside because they don't have them in AFT.
That's right.
Okay? And I wonder, I just wonder, since we're so anxious to join our enemy, if the diminution of respect for what we had under Bylaw 31G is not seen as a stepping stone toward merger. You better think about it. There is a hidden agenda to everything, people. When I came into this organization, we had what we call the Minority Involvement Program. It was so good that all of us got to be officers. And then it went away. You still have a minority leadership training packet. It's a watered down version, but at least it's some training. The proposition now is if it's not cost effective, you don't need that either. Well, we have not arrived in America, nor have we arrived in the NEA. All you got to do is look at Trayvon and you know we have not arrived. So I'm saying to you, when people say, we're going to guarantee this for a year, that's all they intend to guarantee it for. But we must assert ourselves and say, we're mad as hell. And we're not going to take that anymore. All right? When I came in as a regional director. And I got that training and I moved up to vice president and then eventually president of this caucus. The Lord has been good to me. But the Lord has instilled in me a desire to fight for that which is right. I have events that are going on in my district. I represent 83,000 people in the Arkansas State Senate when I ran. My husband and I started out with $7,500 in the bank to run for this race. My opponent had already raised $125,000. That was a shot across the bow. And we began to be nervous when we say, you know, we ain't raising any money, so I don't know if we can win. My husband said to me this: money doesn't win elections. Amen. People do. We won that election with 62% of the vote.
Yeah. All right now. Yeah.
As educators and education support professionals, we are used to doing a lot with a little.
That's right.
But we need to say, we're not going to sit idly by as you take away the Women's Leadership Training Program. We're not going to sit idly by while you take away the Minority Leadership Training Program. We're not going to sit idly by while you take away minority community outreach.
Well,
we're not going to go quietly to that good night when you take away diversity training.
right.
These things are the foundation of what we stand for. When we came to this organization, there was a human and civil rights division. And let me tell you something. I don't want the name changed.
Right.
I don't care about any advocacy and outreach. It all sounds real cutie pooty pooty. But at the end of the day, what it is an end run on taking out those things that are important.
Well,
That's right.
I don't care if everybody who went through UniServe training didn't get a job. It wasn't a part of the guarantee. But I can guarantee you this: before we had it, we didn't have anything.
Right, you did get it done.
Minorities and women got nothing. It was the good old white guys that got the jobs.
Yep.
And so we put this into place so they would never again be able to say, we couldn't find anybody qualified. That's the story when it comes to women and minorities. We've got to say, folks, that if you decide that we are expendable and those things which are important to us are expendable, then we'll take our battle to the public.
well,
We will say that while our president is hobnobbing with the president, he is systematically eroding those things that we fought so hard for. I don't care. I don't work for NEA. So I can say whatever I want to.
all right now.
Okay? And if I did, I'd say that I'd just be looking for a job.
Yes.
Because my grandmother told me, remember, you were looking for a job when you found this one.
All right. And you'll be great.
And we'll be looking for another. The Lord has been good to me. I've been president of an association, but it wouldn't have been politic for me to sit back and just let everything happen. It would have been politic. But I chose to fight to make sure that you weren't sleeping up in there with other folks that you didn't know. I chose to say that it's not all right for everybody else to have the plane fare there and not you. It would have been easy, but Charles and I started this journey of fighting for full funding for the EMAC and the WIC, the Women's Issues Committee, and the Ethnic Minority Affairs Committee, to be fully funded to the pre-conference on the concerns of minorities and women. They'd work us like animals. And we couldn't even get breakfast or dinner on the association. While the folks who worked for us, our staff, could charge it to their credit card. We got to wake up. We got to fess up. We haven't done all we can do. And the last thing I'm going to say is, we've talked to Jackie. I told her, I said, Jackie, I want you to visit every ethnic minority who is African American when you go into the building. Let them know that they're not by themselves. Let them know that we care about them, and who better than our chair. I also want to make sure that we value each other and stop engaging in the crab mentality where if anybody gets up there, we pull them back down. But those of us who sell us out, we've got to send them a cold hard message. You don't automatically get our support just cause you black.
Well.
With that, I'll shut up.
Yeah.
Here's Charles.
You know, I'm accustomed to the Baptist church.
Well.
And when the preacher talks, we talk back. So let me begin and you will fill in the rest.
Call and response.
We've come this far,
By faith.
leaning on, trusting in,
His holy word.
He's never
Failed
failed
us.
us. Exactly. Let me begin by just reminding you that Reconstruction ended when Reg Weaver went home. Do you hear me? I want to make sure you hear me. I am Charles Smith, a teacher on leave of absence from my school district to serve as Vice President of Missouri National Education Association. And I serve as your Black Caucus chair. Let me quickly talk about just a few of the battles that we fought, and then let me go on to share some other information with you and to raise some questions in your mind. Not for you to answer for me, but for you to answer for yourself later when you have time. Linda already talked about the joint conference and those who had the responsibility and the EMAC members and yet could not even get a meal at the end of a long day, so I don't need to talk about that. That was one of the battles that we fought. I remember also when we held the MLTP across the country in various regions. We didn't even have representation from all of the ethnic minority groups. If you were not on EMAC, and I wasn't from the West, then when you went to the Western region, there was no black. There was maybe Hispanic, Asian Pacific Islander. I don't even think we had American Indian, Alaskan Native. It wasn't until through Rosinda we demanded that there be at least one representative from each ethnic group at every MLTP that you saw that change. Now, I remember the battle I fought because I had the nerve to alert our members across the nation that our minority guarantees were being called into question, that there was some conversation about losing some of those minority guarantees and set aside. I even remember going to an executive committee meeting where I was told, this is what we said. I don't know where that came from. We never said that. And I remember there were only two people who would speak up and say, oh, yes, you did say it. And if you said what you say you're saying right now, then Charles Smith wouldn't have sent that email out. And that was Princess Moss and Lynn Palillo. Were the only two who spoke up on my behalf at the board meeting where I was accused of, not directly, but indirectly, I don't know where he's getting that from. That's not what we said. Oh, yeah, I was there. I heard exactly what you said. And I think it was just the idea that I sent the message across the nation that caused some concern. And I remember when we went to California, I had to go from table to table along with the other caucus leaders and say, please don't get up and walk out when somebody gets up to speak because you know California doesn't play with you. And they were going to get up and walk out of the meeting.
I was real mad at you.
Yes.
Yeah, I know you did. I said, but we must always represent well. And so don't do that. Don't get up and walk out of the meeting. But I have 6 pages I need to share with you very quickly. Very quickly. We talked about the NEA preamble. One of our purposes is to assist the NEA in procurement of job and advancement opportunities. And this is what Linda's talking about. There was a day when we supported our staff, our black staff at NEA. And I hope that day hasn't passed. I hope we can still do that. Now, you know I become concerned when you have 10 directors who lose their positions and 8 of them are minority and 6 of them are black. But that's another story for another time.
Don't get 35%.
I realize we have 35%. I understand that. But 35% of less is still less. So don't be fooled when they tell you that more is less is more. No, less is less. It's always been less.
Hey!
I want to talk about quickly the leadership and self-development because that's what both Linda and Phyllis talked about. MLTP is a must for us. There are some deal breakers for which we must stand. MLTP is a deal breaker. MCO should be a deal breaker.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Uniserve intern program ought to be a deal breaker. Now, I know this is a democratic process, you would tell me, but I would ask you, where is your voice in the democratic process? You got to make sure that someone hears your voice. You have a right to be a member of this organization. You have a right to be a leader in this organization. Our employees have a right to work at NEA without fear of losing their job. They ought to have a right to speak freely too, openly, without any fear of reprisal. I'm not saying that they don't, but I'm saying I hope never I see that day come. We have a responsibility to speak truth to power, to tell the truth, and to prick NEA's conscience. If we don't speak for the staff, for the children, for the leaders across the nation, you better not think anyone else will. Because it's our responsibility to speak up for all members, for ESP members, for teachers, librarians, counselors, you name it, the bus driver. That's our job. We must speak for the minority family. Now, there is one question I want to pose, but I won't do that today. I'm going to be kind since we
Don't be
have
kind,
company.
be true.
Be Charles.
Let me say to you what Dr. Al Tony said today, and I want to make sure you understood what he said. Let me begin by saying the community is watching us, the greater community. And I don't care what you tell me, they're looking to see what you do. And so you better make sure that you're doing what you say you're doing, and you stand on those convictions that you say are important to you, because people are watching us and people are talking. And you know, we're always good about making demands on others' homes. We better make sure that we have our own house clean. I told you last night, make sure that the NEA's vision is all of our vision, because it should be your vision and my vision as well. I asked you last night, does the NEA know what you value? Have you told the NEA? Have you said to the NEA what is important to you? Have you said minority guarantees and set-asides are important to me? Uniserve intern program is important to me. MLTP is important to me, and so forth and so on. Becky talked about defense and offense last night. And let me suggest to you, NEA Black Caucus, that you had better have your own strong defense and your own strong offense. And remember also that no one can walk on your back unless you lie down for that. So the question becomes, will you lie down for it? I want to also suggest, and I'm not saying that it is, but I'm just throwing this out here, and you take it however you deem it necessary. The budget or this economic condition cannot become an excuse to cut our programs or to get rid of staff we don't want.
Well,
Because as Linda said, we can't go gently into the night. Our treasurer talked about not standing on the same path. And surely we may not stand on the same path and defend that path to the death. We may or we may not. The path that we've traveled heretofore. But I'm going to suggest that you better not lie down and let the steamroller
Go over.
annihilate you. You need to stand for what you believe is right. I want to know, what is NEA going to look like after June 1? Can you find out for me and let me know, please, Madam Chair? What will the numbers look like after June 1? That's important. And what will the NEA building look like after June 1? So here are my questions to you. Are you connecting the dots? Will you become a bridge builder? You know, Dr. Altoni talked about that this morning. Are you an ark builder? Is it time to call another press conference like the one that Dr. Altoni talked about as the Black Caucus began its work many years ago at one of the National Representative Assemblies? Does NEA's and the Black Caucus's interests still mesh? Do you have divided loyalties? And if so, what are they? How will you, NEA Black Caucus, rebuild and restructure? What remedies do you need to restore your health? You'll talk about that tomorrow, and I hope to be here with you. Do you understand who you represent? And do you compromise your issues? Are you in the business to agitate? Or just go along so you can get along? Through Dorothy, I met a gentleman by the name of Mr. Thomas Todd. And some of you who know Thomas Todd used to tell you, don't be fooled by the okey-doke.
Absolutely.
He used to say that all the time.
Yes,
Don't be
he did.
fooled by the okey-doke. Now's the time to act. It's too late to act after you've approved the budget at the RA Assembly. It's too late then. The budget is in place and it's in motion. If you have issues and concerns, you better act now. We are soldiers in the Army.
Well,
We have to fight, although we have to fight. We have to hold up the blood-stained banner.
yes.
We have to hold it up
Until we die.
Hey, yes. Yes.
Let's give a hand to the power that's in this room today. Yes. I say to you, following that
They said first, take your time. Take your time. Take your time.
I stand on the shoulders of giants. Therefore, I cannot fail. I will not give up the fight. It would be dishonorable because they stood on shoulders of giants. It would be dishonorable to our ancestors, to the blood that we walk across, to the path that they laid for us. But as I said this morning, the NEA Black Caucus is not just Jackie Gradington from New Jersey.
That's right.
The NEA Black Caucus is every black member of the NEA.
Right.
Every black member, whether they come to the RA or not,
Right, exactly.
whether they want to be involved in anything other than teaching their classroom or not, whether they just want to sweep their floor, that's fine. But we have to impress upon each and every person, every black person that we know who is in the field of education and who is a member of NEA, the importance of them joining with us so that we can fight the battles that we need to fight. And I'm willing to put myself on the line. But you know, when I turn around, I want to see a sea of blackness behind me.
You see, at the end of the day, it's not about Phyllis, not about Charles, not about me, not about Jack, it's about you. If you're angry, if they're going to take away the things that we have fought for, nobody gave it to us, that we fought for, then you need to tell them, let's reconsider this budget. When you cut out regional meetings, and I hear the talk is we're going to have a West, and we're going to have an East, which means that we have no foundation and no ability then to coalesce with each other. You see, when we had the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, the Southeast, the Midwest, the West, the Pacific, guess what? We found commonalities. And we were able to come together and do what we're doing now, and that's plan for the future. We insisted that they bring the budget to those meetings. And at every one of those meetings, what did we say we were going to protect, folks? MLTP, the WLTP, MCO, diversity, and leave HCR alone.
Right.
They got tired of seeing it at budget meetings. But unless you have a constant message, people ignore you. When you get off message, you get off power.
And they're going to hear it 7 times before
And
they get it.
that's right. We got to help these folks understand that a bunch of us came through that training. I'm looking at my white sister over here, Joyce Powell, who knows the value with us of women's leadership training.
Sure.
It doesn't make sense that we make up the majority of this organization, we consider ourselves a minority.
Yeah, exactly.
But the way the power is dispensed, women don't vote for women. We've not been each other's supporters. And we've got to figure out who it is that we are still as women. Diversity deals with everything from handicapping conditions to LGBT issues. There are too many people of color who have all of those issues for this training to go away. And if we don't do outreach to the minority community, what is NEA really about? You see what I'm saying? What are we really about? If we aren't about doing outreach to the American Indian, Alaska Native groups, outreach to the Hispanic groups, outreach to Asian Pacific Islanders, and outreach to black people everywhere, not just here, but everywhere. Because we are a part of a broader community called the Education International. It's international. We have meetings in African countries. We have meetings in countries that are Hispanic. We have meetings in countries that are Asian, Pacific Islander countries. And we ought to be going to the tribes, whether they be reservation or non-reservation Indians. So let's write them and tell them, no. And as I ask my children, what part of that don't you understand?
Well,
No. Okay. And remember to take advantage of the things that Mary put into place and our other leaders put into place. National Foundation for the Improvement of Education. How many of you have ever written a grant to take advantage of it? It's an NEA program. We got one. Folks, look up NIFE, N-F-I-E, National Foundation for the Improvement of Education. Get some money. Start some programs in your community that are going to help somebody and get NEA to fund it. National Board of Professional Teaching Standards. We were the ones who had you bank the scores. Before, if you took that national board exam, you didn't pass one part, guess what? You didn't get any credit. You had to start all over again. And record numbers of minorities and non-traditional students who were taking that, guess what? Couldn't pass it. So we put into place banking. Put it in the bank, the part you understand, go back and work on the rest. States across this country are giving you extra money to be nationally board certified. What you waiting on? Praxis. NEA put into place. I just raised hell because not very many people are coming into this organization of color. Because they got tests that keep you from coming in. When I came through, if you graduated from college, you took something, you were a teacher. Okay? Now, you got to pass a test. You may have 3 in California, but if you don't pass one of them, you ain't gonna get in, pardon my grammar. So we put into place pilot states. We used the Grambling Project. Grambling University, historically black college, you understand, said that we are going to do something special to train black folks how to pass that practice exam and therefore be eligible to work in the profession they chose. We partnered with them. The Ethnic Minority Affairs Committee pushed it. The NEA partnered. 5 states. Over 85% of those folks who took that test after they'd gone through that passed it. Who do you think they're going to say is responsible for that? The NEA. NEA's got to step out of its comfort zone and get it together. Because you're not going to attract young people with the same thing that attracted me. They don't care about collective bargaining. What do they care about? We always cared about professionalism, but we saw the need. We've got to give them a reason to join, and it can't be the same reason that I joined. Let's get with technology. Let's talk about what it is these youngsters want to hear about. And a lot of them, young or old, want to make some money. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if we don't do better, and then we've got to make sure that we are relevant to our support professionals. Because when we first brought them in, it was for the money and the numbers. But we've got to give them a reason to stay.
You're right. Especially now. Can I just comment on that as well? To go back to your question originally, you heard what Linda had to say relative to the different programs that this caucus needs to be supporting. And I would just add to that folk who are so consumed by the name issue are not consumed about the black issues. And if you want to talk to them, if you want to recruit them, you've got to find the issue that they are concerned about. Because the name, whatever they call us, and they've called us everything but a child of God, is not the important thing. The important thing is the issues that we've talked about here today, and that we're going to be talking about, you know, right on up to the RA and after the RA as well. This is not an easy fight. It's not going to go away. This is not a 10-minute, you know, little deal. I know we live in the age of TV and we can solve everything in 30 minutes or less with commercials and all that. It's not working for the NEA. It's not going to work for the Black Caucus. And as Jackie said, she's not the Black Caucus. None of us are right here. I mean, we did the best that we could with whatever issues came up, but our main thing was to organize our folk. I go back to what El Tony said this morning. Not only do we have to organize among ourselves, but we've got to, and one of my little seatmates back there said, each one teach one. That has always been my mantra. My mother used to tell us that as kids, because she'd make me take my little brother with me wherever I had to go. So each one teach one. Bring somebody with you. Encourage some new person. People are always talking about the 5-year and less teachers. I'm in a large union. We've got, I guess, 12,000 members. Our numbers, the black educators, is shrinking in that 12,000. We've got to encourage our young people, not only the people who join, but the potentials, those high school kids, those elementary kids who are looking to you for leadership. So, again, I go back to what you said. If the main concern for those folks who are on the floor is what we call ourselves, tell them to call themselves anything they want. Polka dot. Okay. Call themselves, just get themselves to the meetings. Or if they don't want to come to the meetings, follow up with you and find out what the issues are and how they can be helpful instead of destructive and obstructive.
Let me say, I want to say one thing. Something's on my mind, and I've just not been as fair with you as I need to be because I've been holding back.
Really?
Let me share something with you. injustice anywhere is a problem. And I'd ask that you be careful. When I told you don't fall for the okie doke, my concern is as follows. When the economic situation becomes an opportunity to diminish the programs and diminish the employment of those who work for us, we can't be so quick to see another black face in that position and it's okay. Do you understand what I'm telling you?
Yep.
If you have a reason to make a change, that's one thing. But if you make a change and there's not a reason to do that, or it's not the reason, work-related reason, then it's not acceptable just to put another face in there that looks like ours if we mistreated the one that was in there before.
Hello.